Good evening. Welcome to the lineup. We're coming to you live from the Athletx Sports Group studios in Louisville, Kentucky. I am your host for the evening, Rick Goff, and I'm joined by my co-host tonight, Anthony Grassi.
Rick, how's it going?
Doing well. How was your weekend?
Good. A little chaotic as always, but, we're here. Happy to be here on a Monday.
I understand you got a new puppy in the family.
Yeah, that feeds into the chaos, but all positive things, all good things.
Well, they say the prelude to having kids is get a pet first and make sure it's a test. It's a simple test. Make sure it don't die, and then you're on your way to having kids.
Yeah, my mom's told me that once or twice already. So,
yeah, that's mom advice right there.
Oh yes.
Well, we got a full show packed for this evening. We've got our weekend recap that we're going to talk about. We got a couple of things in line there that we're going to discuss. We're going to talk about another tragedy that happened at a youth. It says youth baseball, but I did some more digging. It's actually at a softball, baseball / type of event, and the participant may have been involved in a softball the game instead of the baseball game, but still it's youth related. We're going to talk about Tony La Russa and Yermin Mercedes and how that affects youth baseball. And I got some opinions on that you guys may or may not like or agree or disagree with. Then we're going to get into Tommy John. For those you don't know who Tommy John is, there's a famous surgery named after him that has been used to save many baseball players' careers. But now, is it getting to be too excessive? And then finally, the reason that I'm sure a lot of you will be tuning in tonight, our midseason rankings for 2021 are out, and we are doing the 9 through 13-year-old age group. And I know there's a lot of excitement building about those, and we'll get to those at the end of the show. But first, let's start with our weekend recap. And before we get started, I'm going to remind everyone 2 weeks from tonight, we're going to be we're going to be doing our top plays of the month of May. So if you guys have not already done so, send your top plays, your video clips in for the month of May to the lineup at athletx.com. And we will do those 2 weeks from tonight right here on the lineup. Let's start with a recap tonight, Anthony. We got a couple of teams we want to recognize for having a good weekend. The first one is the Indiana Primetime Black, who went 4-0, 9U Indiana Primetime Black, who went 4-0 this weekend, outscoring their opponents 46-16, including a 12-4 win in the finals. I've said on here before, you play 4 games at the 9-year-old age level, they give up 16 runs, that's an average of 4 runs. You're going to win a lot of games at that 9U level.
Oh, yeah.
The second team we're going to recognize is the 11U Jersey Storm. They had another fantastic weekend. They went 5-0, outscoring their opponents 48-5. 5 runs.
Not bad.
No, that's not bad at all. And they improved the season to 25-1 for the boys out of New Jersey. So congratulations to those guys. I know teams like that from the north, up in that northern, I call it Big Ten, Atlantic Coast region, they don't get a lot of recognition, but because they get their season started a little bit late. So we want to take some time. Being from Michigan myself, I want to give a shout out to some of them northern guys that are doing it the right way. And Jersey Storm 11U, congratulations to you guys. Hopefully we get to see you guys at TbS Nationals in the near future. That would be exciting. We've never had a team from New Jersey, so that would be a first. All right, let's move on to our adopted son here at the lineup. And we're going to talk about Jacob deGrom. Now, unfortunately, deGrom went on the 10-day IL with some rib tightness. So he didn't have a major league start, but he did have a minor league start. Now, when guys like deGrom go down for a minor league start, they're not particular on where he goes. He's just getting his work in. So most people think it's automatic that he goes to AAA. And that's not the case, is it, Anthony?
No, it's not, which creates for Some interesting days at the ballpark for a lot of guys that a lot of us don't know.
Yeah, a lot of us don't know, and a lot of us probably will never know. So he had a rehab assignment, which is common when you're coming off an injury, but his rehab assignment was in low A. Low A with the
Palm Beach Cardinals.
Palm Beach Cardinals. And DeGrom just went down there to get some work in before he come back up to the big league clubs. And both sides, the Cardinals and the Mets, had a little fun with it on Twitter, didn't they?
Oh, yes, they did. Which obviously, as I can't even imagine if you're a low A guy playing down in Palm Beach, what your day must have been like when you found out you were facing Jacob DeGrom. Either way, I guess. Good in the fact that, all right, that's cool. I get to play against one of, if not the best guys in the game.
True.
But on the other side, you're still trying to, make a name for yourself, have a good day so that you can eventually move up and up and up and up and one day make the majors, which facing Jacob DeGrom makes it a lot more difficult to have a good day at the park.
Yeah, but what better notch in your belt if you're a low A player to get a hit off of DeGrom?
Oh, yeah.
To get a hit off DeGrom, to get a double, triple, home run. Let's reach for the stars here. Home run off of DeGrom in a low A game.
That's something you keep with you.
Yeah, but that didn't happen.
No.
That didn't happen. So DeGrom went in, threw 3 innings. Here's a stat line. 0 runs, 0 hits, 0 walks. Struck out 8.
No big deal.
One gentleman did reach based on an error. And at the end of the day, the Port St. Lucie Mets went on to win 7-0, which is probably more runs than DeGrom is used to getting in the big leagues. So he was probably pretty happy about that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we've covered that ad nauseum.
But the funny part of the story, and when did you throw this up, Anthony, on the screen, is the Twitter exchange that took place between the Cardinals and the Mets. And I thought this was a great way for these guys to do this, put a little fun into the game. Palm Beach tweets out, Jacob DeGrom is throwing 102. Someone send help. And I thought that was funny. And then after the game, the Mets tweet at the Palm Beach Cardinals, we'll take him back now. Sorry for the inconvenience. I thought that was funny, but it didn't end there. Palm Beach and the good-natured ribbing that they got going on, they tweet back and says, are you really, though? And what more can you say, right? I mean,
not much more.
Yeah. So I found out just before we went right on air, and I didn't even have a chance to tell you this, Palm Beach Cardinals game before DeGrom was a rehab assignment for Noah Syndergaard.
Yeah, tough series for the Palm Beach Cardinals for sure.
So they had a tough 2 days.
Yeah.
They had a tough 2 days. But, one of the cool things is they interviewed John Beeler, who was the pitcher for the Cardinals, who had to face DeGrom. And he was excited about it. He's like, you know what? I'm getting to toe up the rubber against one of the best pitchers, if not the best pitcher in Major League Baseball. And this is something I'll never forget. The average age of the Palm Beach Cardinals is 21 years old. So, to say they were overmatched is quite the understatement.
Just a little bit.
He averaged 98 miles an hour on his fastball. That was the average. And as you saw from the Twitter, he topped out at 102. So they had a lot of fun with it. DeGrom got his work in, and he'll be back up in the majors. So hopefully by the time the next show rolls around, we'll have some more updates on DeGrom in the big leagues.
Yes.
So that was kind of neat. Now we're going to talk about another interesting thing that took place, and that was Shohei Ohtani. And he pitched 88 pitches in his game, and I'm not sure who they were playing. That's kind of irrelevant to the story. But he threw 88 pitches, and when he was done and the manager came out and took him out, he did not go out of the game, did he?
No. Yeah. Facing the Cleveland Indians, he, after, what is this? Yeah, 4 innings, he takes a hop on over to right field to finish
just
out the
strolls
game.
on out to right field.
No big deal.
So if you didn't see the video of him getting taken out of the game, they actually bring his glove on the walk out to take him out because he uses a different glove to play outfield. So they bring his glove, they throw it to him, and he goes out to right field. And the Twitter world just absolutely blew up about Ohtani leaving the game and going to right field. And as you can imagine, the Twitter world that is youth baseball responded by saying, this happens every weekend.
And?
Yeah. What's the big deal? I mean, we do this every weekend, and most of them don't change gloves. They just go right from the mound and right back out to right field. So Ohtani's having an incredible season, and this is probably getting more of attention because of the season that he is having, both on the mound and at the plate.
Well, and he's second in the majors in home runs. He's leading. Maybe he's not. He's got 14 home runs in the year. He's one off the lead. I mean,
Acuna out of Atlanta has 15. So
he's one off. Yeah,
he's one off the lead. On the mound, he's been dominant, and so this is a story that I think everybody was planning on seeing a few years ago, but injuries kind of kept him from developing that story. But this year, it's coming to light.
Front and center.
Yeah, front and center for sure. Let's see what else we got here. I guess that'll wrap it up with our weekend recap. We're going to move on to the tragedy, some more tragedy that happened in baseball. In Constantine, Michigan, about a week ago, there was a shooting at a Little League park in Constantine, Michigan. And Constantine is in Michigan on the west side of the state, just north of the Indiana border, north of Elkhart, Indiana, right on the border there. And an argument ensued between two gentlemen. A 38-year-old gentleman ended up being shot 4 times in an argument over a youth softball game. And I have a hard time wrapping my head around this. I mean, what, and this is a rhetorical question, but what could possibly cause someone to shoot someone else over a youth game? I mean, you're shaking your head and you have no answers, right? Yeah. I mean, it's unfathomable that something like this would transpire at any type of game, let alone a youth game. You know, the danger that you put these kids in, the fans, people that have nothing to do with your silly argument, over your stupid argument, that I'm sure 5 minutes, if you would have walked away 5 minutes after it happened, you probably would have realized it was stupid yourself. But instead, you decide not to only change the life of a 38-year-old man, but you change the life of yourself, because you're going to jail.
Oh, yeah.
For a long time. And was the argument, whatever that was,
worth it?
Was it worth it? I mean, I sat here across from you, Anthony, and I'm trying to figure out what would be worth going to jail for.
Not that.
Not that. You know, if somebody was physically attacking my children, I might.
We might have a different reaction. You and I sitting here talking might have a different reaction to this story.
But just an argument over a youth game?
That seems...
And on top of that, Anthony, we talked last week about there's a shortage of umpires across the country.
Yeah.
Well, here you go. Because what if this was an argument with an umpire? I mean, it just doesn't make sense. And I'm going to tell you what, if I was umpiring that game, man, I'd be hesitant to come back and umpire anything there.
I'd imagine if you work at that park, you might be hesitant. Or if you know...
Sure.
You know the person who was behind the plate or on the field umping that game, it's just a little closer to home, you'll probably feel the same exact way.
Yeah, and, you know, they've canceled all games out there, and I don't know if they've resumed them yet, but they had canceled them all until further notice, and rightfully so. You know, I mean, the kids that were at that game, I mean, it's going to have an impact on them for the rest of their lives. And it's an unfortunate event that transpired, and, you know, it goes back to, I mean, we've talked about it on the show with other guests, and the things that you do at the park, even just arguing with somebody else, the kids see that. It's going to have an impact on them. It's going to have an impact on how they proceed through life. Knock it off. And I know it's easier said than done. Tempers run rampant at the spur of the moment. And I know there's some people out there that probably know me. I had a temper when I was younger, and I did some stupid things. Guaranteed. I'm not acting holier than thou, but I never shot someone. Never thought about shooting someone over a youth game, and it's mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. So, you and we've talked about this. We talked about at the beginning of the show, you've got a new puppy, and that's the first step into going on and having kids. I mean, as somebody who's thinking about having kids, you look at these stories, and I mean, what goes through your mind?
It's hard to put into words, I guess, how you get to that point. I mean, and as you said, I used to officiate youth sports. I used to obviously play youth sports. And obviously, yeah, like you said, you see some things, some of those things kind of stick around with you. Things that have happened in altercations between parents and referees and umpires and the like. And it's hard to fathom how something got to this point. But yeah, mind-boggling is the right.
Take it all into consideration, right? You're somebody who's thinking about having kids, and you just listening to the show and being part of the show, you've heard about the abuse that umpires take. You've heard about now the shooting that's happened. You've heard about how referees get abused, parents act. I mean,
none of that.
Do you want your kids playing sports? I guess that's the bottom line. Is like, would you second think about putting them in doing something safer, less confrontational?
No, I'd still probably have them play sports. Depends on what the sport is. Depends on finding the right team, the right sport, the right fit, as we talked about last week when you're when you're trying out for different teams, what the right fit for your situation is. I think that plays a huge part in it.
But all the bad about all the bad is at the spur of the moment, right?
That is true.
When a parent starts yelling at an official, or a parent starts yelling at the coach, or an umpire starts yelling at the fan, that's nothing you can plan for.
Yeah, and
you can't plan for it.
Yeah, and it's all spur of the moment. You're not going to talk trash to an umpire because he missed the call 2 innings ago.
Right.
You're going to let him know now, and if he messes up again, then you're going to let him know again about the last one. But you're not going to hold on to something and then, kind of throw that out there like you've been holding on to it for the whole time. These are all things that happen as they happen.
And I asked you that question because I was back home in Michigan this weekend, and I talked to a couple of guys that have kids that don't play sports, and I asked them why you made that choice not to play sports. And your typical answer is, well, because my kid's not athletic. That's a typical response for kids that are not playing sports. Or he's into music, playing an instrument or something of that nature. And surprisingly enough, it wasn't the answer I got from two people. They gave me the answer that I'm not putting my kid in the middle of that chaos. And I was perplexed. It was an interesting answer that I had never, kind of envisioned, because when you get involved in the sports world, you kind of expect chaos.
To some extent,
right?
I mean, it's kind of built in. It's kind of obviously not the stuff we're talking about, but like the chaos between the lines is kind of what makes it interesting. The chaos outside of, the field of play is the stuff that we can't control for. And that's also the stuff we least expect to some extent. So I can understand where that is coming from. I guess it's also the fact that, like, for context, the last couple of weeks we've talked about these things. These are kind of rare events. Obviously, we talked about, abusing umpires and talking trash to umpires and all that kind of stuff, which happens every weekend.
Well, that's not to say that's not rare. That part of it's not rare.
Right. And I guess to some extent, you take things as the parent, as a not yet parent, I guess I would say, you take everything as a learning opportunity. If your kid goes out there and their team gets absolutely smoked, you're going to take the fact that you got the brake speed off of you as a learning opportunity to say, okay, well, you can't win everything. You're going to have to lose. That's just life. Here's how do you respond to it? I mean, one of the lessons my dad taught me that has stuck with me to this day, and I don't play sports anymore, but I can remember I was like 12, and me and my dad were walking back to the car, and I said something about a referee blowing a call, and that's why we lost the game. And he stopped me right in my tracks, and he said, no, you didn't. That's not why you lost the game. You lost the game because you didn't play well enough to win the game. The umpire doesn't lose you the game. If you put yourself and your team in a position to where the umpire, the official, can impact the call of the game, you did not deserve to win the game.
Yeah, he's right. He's right. And you hear that story a lot, right? I mean, I've said it myself. And again, I'm not going to act holier than thou. I'm sure in my years of coaching, my 20-some years of coaching, I'm like, hey, you know what? The umpire blew that one and cost us a game. Without even thinking, it's just kind of a natural reaction. And when you really sit and think about it like your dad did, and like I do now that I'm older, you realize that that's not the case. Was that call an important part of the game? Sure, I'm sure it was. But you had 5 other innings or 5.5 other innings to change the outcome of the game. And, look back to the second inning when you had bases loaded and nobody out and you didn't score.
Yeah.
But nobody wants to look at that. And so now you've got this all in here with like my friends from Michigan. They talk about, we just want to be in that chaos. We don't want to be in that craziness. And it is a chaotic world of youth sports. And it's not just baseball.
Every sport.
Basketball, softball, volleyball, football.
Hockey.
It's all hockey.
Any sport, yeah.
And I tell you, more and more parks are going to hiring security guards or even off-duty police officers. When I was at Lake Point, they had an off-duty police officer that was there from the time they opened to the time they went home. Unfortunately, he was busy. He was a busy individual. And I've watched many, many, many people being escorted out of there. Not because they wanted to be, because they had to be. For a game.
Yeah, but again, the emotions run high when it is your child. So
they do. People get protective.
Yeah.
But you can be protective without being an idiot.
I guess that's easy for us to sit here and say on a Monday in a studio, but I guess the spur of the moment things that you might say or may do aren't always the most rational, well thought out things.
Well, and it's how you I'll give you one quick story at a incident that transpired, and there was a batter that kept calling time just as the pitcher was getting ready to deliver the pitch. That annoying thing. You're trying to break up his rhythm. The pitcher was being dominant, and they would time it up to just when he was getting ready to pitch, they would call time. Now, this is on the umpire. He can grant time or he can not grant time, but he was granting time. And one of the dads, it might have been the dad of the pitcher, I'm not exactly sure, but one of the dads from the team said, next time he does that, throw one high and inside. And I'm assuming the dad of the child, said, are you saying to throw at my child? And he's like, I'm not saying throw at your child. I'm just saying throw it high and inside. Well, that's
not saying it.
Right. That's what started the argument.
Lovely.
Right. Again, someone felt like they were attacking their child, and one of those gentlemen was escorted out by the security guard, and he had to leave. So, yeah, it gets a little crazy. And I know we kind of got off topic there a little bit, but we were talking about a shooting that transpired in Constantine, Michigan, and just don't understand it. Not at all. All right, let's move on to Tony La Russa versus Yermin Mercedes. And if you haven't seen this one, the thing that transpired between manager and his player, in my opinion, will have tremendous impact on the youth baseball world. And let me tell you what I mean by that. Mercedes, in a game last week against Cleveland, 9th inning, let me set the stage for you. 9th inning, top of the ninth inning. White Sox are up 15-4. There's 2 outs. A position player is on the mound. And I can't even say his name. Estudillo,
I think is his last name.
Estudillo, yeah. So anyway, he's on the mound and he's throwing his 47-mile-an-hour fastball.
We'll call it that, sure.
Sure. We'll go with fastball. That's probably not the right term, is it?
I don't know. It's a 47-mile-an-hour something or other.
A pitch. A 47-mile-an-hour pitch. We don't know what we're going to call it, though. Anyway, the count's 3-0. White Sox are up 15-0.
I think it was 15-4.
Or 15-4, sorry.
15-4.
White Sox are up 15-4. 2 outs, ninth inning. They're up 15-4. Game's in hand, counts 3-0. And he throws in one of those 47-mile-an-hour pitches, and Mercedes proceeds to hit it
1,000,000 miles.
450 feet for a home run. And he trots around the bases. Next guy makes an out. Cleveland comes up in the bottom of the ninth, makes 3 outs, game's over. Now it's 16-4. Well, 78-year-old Tony La Russa calls out his young superstar. And basically he said, let me find the quote here. Got that somewhere. Oh, quote, La Russa said that he made a big mistake, poor sportsmanship, and is deserving of punishment. Now, people have come out. First of all, Tony La Russa, I said 78 years old. He's old school. And you didn't do this 20, 30 years ago. You just didn't do it. There was retaliation for it. Now, me being old school, my interpretation of what La Russa did was try to protect his young slugger. And I know I'm probably in the minority on this, but La Russa, being older and wiser than his young slugger, my guess is La Russa knew what was coming. And I think La Russa was trying to send a message to the other team like, hey, I will handle this. He made a mistake. He swung 3-0. He shouldn't have done it. I will handle this internally. But that's not what transpired. So for the next couple of days, players like Tim Anderson, who is another star on the Sox team, basically come out and said, I don't care what La Russa says, big boy. Keep doing your thing, and you do you. CC Sabathia commented on it and said La Russa shouldn't even be managing the White Sox. Well, one day after that, guess what happens?
Back on the diamond.
Back on the diamond, and Tyler Duffy, relief pitcher for the Minnesota Twins, throws one behind Mercedes. It was a message pitch, no doubt about it. And the umpire immediately ejected Tyler Duffy, and he immediately ejected the manager, Rocco Baldelli. Tyler Duffy appealed to suspension. Baldelli didn't. He's all right, suspend me for 1 game. Let's get on. Let's move over. Let's move around it. So, people were complaining about La Russa handcuffing his young star, but La Russa kind of knew what was coming, and he was trying to send a message that he was going to take care of it. And then when Major League Baseball basically didn't allow him to take care of it because Tim Anderson chimed in, CC Sabathia chimes in, they all kind of chime in support of what Mercedes did. Twin says, okay, well, here, we'll send you the message. And now they get suspended for it. So being of that younger generation, and I'm going to give you some more thoughts on this, but I'm going to give you a chance to chime in here. Being of the younger generation, what's your thoughts on it?
I didn't have as much, if a problem at all with it. I'm separate thought. It might just be me, but it seems like there's position players pitching all over. We're like however many months, like a month in, 2 months in, whatever. Sure. I feel like there's been more position players pitching than ever before, which has given us these very weird circumstances where like guys are throwing 47 miles an hour and striking guys out. And I understand, yes, we've gone over the unwritten rules on here before. Like, I understand you're up 3-0, you're absolutely killing the other team. You probably shouldn't hit one a million miles. But if you go find the clip online and watch it, like the first 2 pitches are way out of the strike zone. The third pitch is just off the outside corner, and you can tell that Mercedes is trying to hit this one out of the stadium.
Right.
Like he stepped all the way in. He almost swung all the way out across off the plate. So if you're Russa, you know what's coming. He tried to take every bit of that ball yard on a pitch that was so far outside, he would have needed an oar to hit it. Okay? So you knew what was coming. You knew he was swinging. Like, he's still a Major League Baseball player. You're still communicating with your players what's going on, even though you're up 11 runs late in the game. Unless I'm missing something. Unless Tony La Russa's missing something. It's like, give your guy the take sign or tell him to do whatever you want that's more acceptable to you. I don't know. I didn't think it was as big of a deal. And then to come out and...
Fair enough.
To your point, I think I hadn't thought about him coming to his guy's defense kind of preemptively. The comment came across as though he was just being older generation guy telling the younger generation guy, hey, don't do that. And then once your other young stars come out against you, you're kind of put in this weird, weird spot.
And that's the way it looks. And let me tell you why it looks that way, Anthony. It looks that way because people are looking small picture, right? I have a young gentleman here at Athletx that's starting to run tournaments, and I'm trying to teach him how to not look at the little picture. Don't look at what's on the surface. Look at the big picture. Look at the effect that something's going to have overall. So when people look at La Russa's comments, they see the little picture. And like you said yourself, you didn't think about that maybe he's trying to be preemptive and protect his young slugger from getting one in the ear hole, which is what's going to happen. La Russa's kind of sending a message saying, hey, I'll take care of this. I'll deal with it internally. It won't happen again. Now, you made your comment, and let me ask you this. Does it change your mind? And this is where everybody's probably looking at this or listening to this podcast right now and thinking, well, what does this have to do with youth baseball? And I took a long way to get there, and here's what it has to do with youth baseball. If I tell you that Mercedes ignored a take sign at 3-0 from his manager and hit the home run anyway, does that change your outlook?
A little bit, because then he knew what the circumstance was and he blatantly didn't care. Now, obviously, I understand you're going to probably disagree with this. It's probably a little different as a Major League Baseball player because you're making X amount of dollars and you're, big time. And
we're going to get into that.
It's a little bit different, but I understand the principle that you're setting of if you are given a take sign and you ignore the take sign, if you were given a sign period and you ignore said sign to do whatever you want, that's kind of basically spitting in the face of your coach or manager.
Exactly. And that's what was said to have happened here. Now, they didn't say he ignored the take sign. They played the politically correct game, and they said he missed the take sign.
Which, I guess is entirely possible. I saw the highlight version of the clip.
It's easy to miss it when you don't want to see it.
Bingo.
Right. So, and this is where I'm kind of connecting this to youth baseball. So you have youth baseball players sitting at home, maybe watching the game or seeing the Instagram, Twitter version, whatever it is. And these young players are like, well, he did the right thing. He should have swung 3-0. Now you take these young players, and when they get into a game with their coaches and their teams, and what's running through their head is, Mercedes didn't have to listen to Coach La Russa. Why do I have to listen to my coach? I'm going to swing 3-0 too. So this is why I think that whatever happened there is bad for youth baseball, because these young players want to emulate these major league stars in the worst way. They want to look up, they want to do the things that they do. And if they disregard a manager's instruction, then they're going to disregard a manager's instruction. And again, I'll tell you a quick story from my 12-year-old team that I had that was really, really good. and we were in a situation, I asked one of my players to bunt. Good bunter, probably one of the best bunters on my team. I asked him to bunt, to move the runners over. He gave me a half-hearted bunt attempt. And I knew it. He wanted to swing. So what do you think I did? I made him bunt again. I can just read his body language. His shoulders shrug, and he gets back in there, and he turns, and he gives me another half-hearted bunt attempt. So now he's down 0-2. Well, he's smart enough to know that, coach is not going to have me bunt because it's strike 3 and I'm out. So he thinks he won the game. Then now he gets to swing. Well, guess what I did? No. He's going to bunt again.
And now he's up against it, so he's got
Now he's up against it, and he's going to bunt. So, but you take that situation and compare it to Russa and Mercedes here, and that player might not even give his coach a half-hearted attempt. He might just go ahead and swing away. And what do you think the youth manager is going to do? He's probably going to pull him out of the game because he's not making $40 million, and he's going to set him down. And then the kid's not going to like it. And then he's going to say, well, I'm going to go play for another coach. And so that's why I think it's bad. If it is true, and from everything I read that it is true, not that he ignored a sign. They're trying to protect the young slugger and saying that he missed the sign. But still, that's why I think it's bad for youth baseball, because these guys try to emulate these guys, and they're going to go out and do what they want.
Yeah, I completely understand that part of it. But I guess the major league component of it is, Mercedes is still technically a rookie, even though he appeared last year, but he's still technically a rookie through this year.
Sure, he's earning his keep.
Right. So when his service time comes due and he's up for arbitration in 2024, he's a free agent in 27. Every little bit counts, and I understand.
I buy into this 100% where you're going with this.
Yeah,
I do.
In reality, Russa's probably not going to be there in 3 to 7 years or whatever, but he's going to be there, and every home run that he has is going to count. And I guess you could take it the other way of if he's talking to X team and X general manager, and they can basically turn this back on him and say, okay, well, you're not going to listen to what I say, so why would I want you on my team? So there's kind of
a catch-22.
Yeah, it is.
It's catch-22, but listen, you make a great point, and for that point, I am totally on board, and I'm going to flip-flop here because I support Russa. I support what he did. I don't believe in swinging 3-0 up when you're up 15-0. But I understand in today's society, in today's world, home runs and RBIs mean dollars for these guys. And for that reason, I understand why Mercedes did it. I do. I get it. Like you said, when his contract comes up next year or he's up for free agency, hitting 30 home runs looks a hell of a lot better than hitting 29.
Yeah, and when the at-bat was kind of odd to begin with. Obviously, you have a position player pitching. He throws one way outside. He throws one high and inside. He throws one off the outside corner. So he needs to throw a striker or else he's walking. He kind of he knows
that.
He knows what's coming. So he's like, all right, I know what's coming. It's going to be a slow pitch. The other ones were all in the high 40s, low 50s. He's like, I'm going to take this one to the moon.
Yeah.
And basically a free home run.
And so I get it from that aspect, from the contractual standpoint. And listen, back in the 80s when Russa was managing in his prime and stuff like that, these players didn't make that much money.
Exactly, yeah.
So hitting 29 or 30 home runs didn't really earn you that much more than the guy who hit 10 home runs. There wasn't that big of a discrepancy in the pay scale 20, 30 years ago that it is today. So I see both points. I understand both points. And what's right or wrong will be argued about for quite some time because, honestly, both points are right.
Yeah, and I guess for context, I didn't know the take sign part of it. But, yeah, if you are still a player and you are still being coached to do certain things for a certain reason, and obviously I understand your coach is trying to not embarrass the other team, but...
You can't have
Yeah.
chaos.
Yeah.
You can't have chaos inside your ranks.
Because what's going to happen, if you,
There is a man in charge.
yeah, and
He's in charge for a reason. Russa's won World Series. He's won hundreds of games. He's well respected in the community. And people can say he's a dinosaur all you want, but his resume speaks for itself. And if you don't have order in your house, you're going to end up with chaos. And unfortunately, if you don't listen to the manager, there's going to be repercussions, whether at the youth level, at the high school level, at the major league level. And I just think what happened is sending a bad message. And all these people that are supporting Mercedes, I just think it's sending a bad message to the youth that it's okay to not listen to your manager. And that's basically all I've got to say on the subject. Hopefully we'll see if there's any more that comes out of this. All right. Next one is a topic that has been troubling for a lot of people in the youth world for a few years now. But, let me ask you this, Anthony. We talk about Jacob deGrom. We talk about Steven Strasburg. And we talk about John Smoltz. What do those three guys have in common?
aside from the fact that they're all really dang good.
Besides, they're all really dang good.
All the Tommy John.
They've all had Tommy John surgery. And DeGrom probably being the most famous one of the three right now because he's in every day's limelight and he's pitching lights out, which we document well every week. But they've all had Tommy John surgery. And let me give you guys a brief history on Tommy John, what Tommy John surgery is. Some people probably don't even realize that it is connected to an actual player, Tommy John, who played for the Yankees. And back on September 25th, 1974, Dr. Job told Tommy that he had a 1 in 100 chance of pitching again if he had this surgery, and Tommy took it. He had the surgery done, and he went on to pitch for 10 more years after he had the surgery. And he pitched better than before. And what Tommy John surgery is they have to repair the UCL that's in the elbow. And because it gets torn, or in Tommy's case, it was completely gone. So there was nothing to repair. So they end up taking a ligament out of his wrist and basically creating a new UCL and putting it inside of his elbow. And you got to understand, back then, no one knew rehab. I mean, what's the rehab for? Well, nobody knows. It's the first time it's ever been done. But they did it for Tommy. Tommy came back after he had the surgery, and that was on September 25th of 1974. On June 25th, he was getting the feeling back in his fingers. And sometime in July, he was throwing batting practice. In 1976, the year after the Tommy John surgery, he threw 206 innings and he finished second in the Cy Young voting in 1977.
How about that?
So over 500 players in Major League have had Tommy John surgery. And we had Allison Hunkowski on here about a month, maybe 2 months ago. And I was asking her if Tommy John surgery is a thing in girls softball. And she surprisingly answered that, yes, it does happen, but it's not from the pitchers. It's from position players. And the challenging thing for me in the youth baseball world is we're seeing a growing trend of younger and younger pitchers having the surgery, not because it's necessary. They're voluntarily trying to have it. And do you got some stats on that?
Yeah. So let's pull these up real quick. So this is what's on screen now is from a medical study that was released in 2015. So it's a little dated, but all the peer-reviewed journals take a little while to come out. And this is the basically frequency in which individuals are having Tommy John surgery. And you can see vast majority, or the most amount of people that are having it done, are between the ages of 15 and 24, which is, like you said, it's pretty startling to see that it's happening. Such a major surgery on such a major part of a baseball player's body is being done so early.
Yeah, and that's the concerning thing in the youth world right now is that at such a young age. My dad always told me, growing up, that don't cut on your body unless you have to, because it's never going to be right again. The area that you cut is going to eventually be weaker. It might be a short fix, and that's kind of what I'm thinking with this Tommy John is, sure, it's a short fix, but in the long run, when you get into your 40s, 50s, 60s, are you going to have problems?
Yeah, and I guess you could argue a number of reasons, and I imagine if one of us was a doctor, we could probably have some actual medical understanding as to what the true, cause of the rise is, or what the...
And for the record, we are not.
And for the record, we are not
doctors. But we did stay at Holiday Inn last night.
The only real thing I could find was a quote from a doctor who works at the Andrews Sports Medicine Center.
And Andrews does most of the Tommy John surgery right now. Yeah.
Dr. James Andrews. Yeah, he's like the orthopedic guy.
Yep.
Guy that works in that center, basically saying that the number of cases has gone up, and the most UCL injuries that they're seeing are in high school athletes, with the average age of about 18 for Tommy John surgery. He attributed it to the fact that they're skeletally immature, and they're probably also stacked down on top of the fact that they're throwing the hardest for the youngest age group for the skeletally immature.
So basically he's saying these kids are throwing too hard and their body can't take it. It's not ready to take it yet.
Right. That's basically what he's saying, that your body's not built at that age to do all of that lifting on that one joint.
Right.
That one ligament.
Right.
Just crazy.
So, but did you find any research about the kids that were having it electively done instead of necessarily done?
I didn't. All that stuff was more
I'd be interested.
Anecdotal. Just one-offs here and there, stories like that, but I don't think there's been any hard studies on it. The chart of, the frequency of age groups getting it done was just based on like what the researchers could get private data on, based on, I guess, what health insurance is paying out for. So they found that all across this data set, the most frequent age that they were paying out for UCL reconstructive surgery was that basically 15 to 24 age range.
I wonder how much Tommy John surgery costs.
I'll look it up, but I can't imagine it's cheap.
That's an interesting thing that I never even thought about. Like, what does it cost? The medical side of it. I mean, not that it detours or, is the final decision on anybody having the surgery, but I'd be curious to see what it costs.
All right, I've got to keep looking. I keep getting hit with an ad.
We gotta love those ads.
Everybody's got to make a buck.
And then on top of that, having Tommy John surgery and see how much it costs to have a baby, like birth a baby in the hospital. I wonder what the comparative cost on that is.
The cost to have a baby is about somewhere between $5,000 and $11,000, depending on where you're located. Let's see.
$5,000 to $11,000 to have a kid.
The cost of recovery. This is for Major League, so this isn't exactly the same scale, but the cost of recovery for the average Major League Baseball player to undergo Tommy John surgery between 2004 and 2014 is an average of $1.9 million cost of recovery.
Wait, cost of recovery? You talking about the rehab part of it? Is that what that is?
I imagine that's probably the surgery, the rehab, the amount that they are.
Is that per person?
Per player, that's what it says.
So the average cost is $1 million. Wow, I did not think it was that high.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
That is crazy. Well, I mean, I guess you got all the therapy, the rehab therapy sessions and stuff like that. Yeah, I wonder what the cost of the actual surgery is, though.
Let me see. I don't know if I can find like an official source.
Yeah, it's not important. It's not important. I mean, it just goes to show you that, $5,000 to $10,000 to have a kid, and it's multiple times of that to have the Tommy John surgery done.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. All right. Well, that takes care of the first four things. And now that brings us to probably why everyone is tuning in tonight. And that is and if we had a drum roll, we would insert it here, the preseason TbS 2020, the midseason. We've already done the preseason. The midseason 2021 TbS rankings. This is something that we do 3 times a year. We do a preseason, a midseason, and then we do the final rankings at the end of the year. All the teams that appear in the final rankings have an automatic invite to the TbS Nationals in 2022. So keep that in mind for the teams that are on this midseason list and the ones that are hoping to get on the midseason or the final season list. If you make the list, you have an automatic invite. And we try to bring in the best teams in the country to play at the TbS Nationals every year. We've got a great lineup for this year. That team's qualified by being on the list from last year. But we're going to do this in order. We're going to start at 9U, and we're going to go to 13U. We're going to start with the honorable mention list in alphabetical order. They're in no particular order other than alphabetical, so don't read into if you were the first team that we have you at 21 and 22 and so forth.
The last team, you're not at
30.
27,
yeah.
30. Yeah.
You're just on the honorable mention list. And then we'll do the top 20. We'll count it backwards from 20 to number 1. And we'll do that for every age group 9 through 13. So here we go. Starting off with the 9U division, the honorable mention list. Anthony, who do we got?
We have the Hawks from Florida, Ohio Elite, Oklahoma Fuel, Quad City Knights, the Scorpions, the Seams from Tennessee, the Sticks, and from right here in Kentucky, the Vipers.
All right, getting into the top 20. Coming in at number 20, Motor City Hit Dogs out of Michigan. Number 19, TBT Ballers out of Florida. Number 18, out of Virginia, West Gold Branch. Number 17, the Nationals from Tennessee, the Tennessee Nationals. And at number 16, the Okies from Oklahoma.
At number 15, we have Easley Baseball Club. At number 14, SBA Futures. At number 13, Mission Baseball. Number 12, Line Drive Black. And at number 11, Texas Nitro.
All right, that gets us into our top 10. And coming in at number 10 is the Scottsdale Dirtbags out of Arizona. Number 9 is the Sharks out of Florida. Number 8 coming in from California, San Diego to be exact, the San Diego Stars. Number 7, South Carolina, Complete Game. And number 6, the City Pirates from California.
Into the top 5, we have Line Drive Elite. At number 4, we have the WFBA Hammerheads. At number 3, MVP Hustle. And number 2, ZT Nationals Prospects.
And that brings us to our number 1 ranked team in the midseason, 9U, out of Louisiana, Southern Finest.
Moving on to 10U for the honorable mentions, we have the Ambush, Dynasty Black, Easley Baseball, the Gators, Line Drive, LR Rivals, Prime Baseball, STX Diablos, Tampa Heat, Turn 2 Baseball, and ZT Elite Jacob.
Getting into the top 20, at number 20, out of Kentucky, Vipers, Hammonds. Number 19 is Line Drive from Georgia. Number 18, Mission Baseball. Number 17 from Chicago, Upper Deck Cougars. And number 16, the SBA Futures from North Carolina.
At number 15, we have STL Clutch. At number 14, Team Sosa 305. At number 13, the SBA Nationals. At 12, Dirtbags Prime. And at 11, Elite RBI from Texas.
Getting into the top 10, we have the Knights Elite from Arizona. Number 9, the Oklahoma Fuel. Number 8 is MVP Contreras out of California. Number 7 is the Gamblers from down in Miami. And number 6 is the RBI Red Stitch out of Tennessee.
Into the top 5 from San Diego, we have the San Diego Stars. At number 4, the Carolina Cardinals. At number 3, Banditos Black. At number 2, MVP Hustle Casillas, which brings us with our number 1 squad for the midseason 10U rankings, Prime Baseball. Prime Baseball, coached by Tony Lujan, came in number 2 in our 10U preseason rankings. Currently have a record of 86-2, and the boys for Prime Baseball have not lost a game since March 8th.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive there for those boys out of Florida. 86-2. That seems like a lot of games, but that does come from the preseason. Comes from the fall season all the way up till now.
Yeah, that counts beginning of September through present.
All right, what do we have on? Let's move on to the 11-year-old division. Anthony, and what do we have for the honorable mention there?
In our honorable mentions, we start with the Banditos, Birmingham Stars, Dingers, East Cobb Astros Orange, Jersey Storm, Ohio Elite, Ohio Heat, SDOT Elite, Texas Canes, ZT Elite 21 Baseball, and ZT Houston.
All right, getting into the top 20 for the 11U TbS Midseason Rankings, Motor City Hit Dogs from Michigan. Number 19, Five Tool Players out of Texas. Number 18, Dirtbags Black out of North Carolina. Number 17 is the Titans, the La Miranda Titans from California. And number 16 calls Arkansas home, the Arkansas Warriors.
And number 15 from Temecula, California, Reed Johnson Baseball. At number 14, Premier National. At number 13 from Florida, Diamond Elite. At number 12, Scottsdale Dirtbags. And at number 11 from North Carolina, the SBA Futures.
Coming in at number 10 is MVP Hustle out of California. Number 9 is Dynasty Black down in Texas. Number 8, M3 Elite out of Tennessee. Number 7, the Next Level Prospects from Georgia. And number 6, my favorite name in the whole entire rankings, the Swamp Donkeys out of Louisiana.
Into the top 5 from Montgomery, Texas, we have the Backyard Ballers. From number 4, the Hollywood Heat. At number 3, from Alpharetta, Georgia, TG D-backs. And number 2, Traction Canes Black, which brings us to your number 1 11U squad in the midseason rankings, the ZT National Prospects. The ZT National Prospects from Fullerton, California, coached by Carlos Sevilla, have a 44-7-2 record on the season and came in at number 13 in our preseason rankings, so the boys have really showed out thus far.
Well, we'll get a chance to see ZT National and Traction Canes, both at the TbS Nationals, and that'll be quite a battle to see who ends up at the end of the tournament at number 1. All right, let's move on to 12U. Anthony, let's take us home here for the honorable mentions in 12U.
Starting off, we have the Dorados, Doolins Dodgers, FL Dodgers Scout Team, Indiana Bulls Black, the Knights, Southern Madison Sluggers, Stars Baseball, Taconic Rangers, Team 24 Black, TX Bombers Elite, and ZT Elite Jacob.
Moving on to the top 20, coming in at number 20, Dynasty Black out of Texas. Number 19, Kangaroo Court out of Florida. Number 18, also from Florida, the Parkland Pokers. Number 17, Las Vegas Rebels. And number 16, from Winter Garden, Florida, Shock Baseball.
At number 15, we have MVP Hustle. At number 14, we have Phipps Park SF Bulldogs. At number 13, from Queen Creek, Arizona, the AZ Spurs. At number 12, SBA Futures. And from Rochester, Michigan, at number 11, Motor City Hit Dogs.
Cracking the top 10 at number 10 is 5-Star Elite from Florida. Number 9 is Line Drive Black out of Georgia. Number 8 is I Am United out of Florida. Number 7, the Banditos Black from Tomball, Texas. And number 6, out of Miami, 5-Star Miami.
Into the top 5, we have ZT Elite Gonzalez, Texas Florida Canes, and number 3, from Waxhaw, North Carolina, Canes Piro, and number 2, ZT Elite, which leaves your number 1 squad for the 12U midseason rankings, your number 1 preseason ranked team for the 12U age division, East Cobb Astros Orange. The East Cobb Astros Orange, coached by Wes Etheridge, are on a tear this season. The boys currently have a record of 43-0.
East Cobb Astros Orange, actually, we need to update Anthony. They finally lost a game in South Carolina to Line Drive Black. So we need to update that to 43-1. Still an impressive record. Still the reason they're number 1. And we will have 9 of the top 10 teams in the country at the TbS Nationals. The only one missing is Line Drive Black out of Georgia, but the other 9 out of the 10 will be there for the TbS Nationals. We look forward to that one. That was going to be a barn burner there. Let's move on to the 13-year-old age division and start us with the honorable mention list there.
For honorable mentions, 5-Star, Dirtbags, East Cobb Astros Navy, I Am United, Indiana Bulls Black, the Louisville Sting, MVP, the Razorbacks, Team Elite, Team Francisco Notorious 9, and the Yalabusha Giants.
Coming in at number 20, B45 out of Oklahoma. Number 18 is the Flames from Cincinnati, Ohio. Number 17, Florida Dodger Scout Team. Number 18 is the Florida Dodger Scout Team out of Jacksonville. Number 7 is Easley Baseball Club Henson. And number 16, coming from Castle Rock, Colorado, the Colorado Recruits.
At 15, Dynasty Black. At number 14, from Manassas, Virginia, Stars Baseball. At number 13, a name we've heard a lot, SBA Futures. At number 12, Bengals Black, Arredondo. And at number 11, from Marietta, Georgia, East Cobb Astros Orange.
Making it into the top 10, number 10, Burn Atlantic out of Florida. 12 out of Texas. Coming in next is the Motor City Hit Dogs out of Michigan. Followed by Canes Eason at number 7. And number 6 is the Brandon Blazers.
Into the top 5, TBT National White. At number 4, from Powder Springs, Georgia, Canes Southeast. At number 3, ZT Elite Nava. At number 2, another ZT Elite team, the Cali Prospects. And at number 1 for the 13U midseason rankings, your preseason number 1, Texas Canes Elite.
Texas Canes are having another great season. They are well over the 100-win mark in 2 years straight running. And that 3 losses that you see on the screen, 2 of them came at the 14-year-old age level. Only 1 has come at the 13-year-old age level. So playing in their own division in 2 years, they've lost 1 time. So congratulations to Lolly and the boys on a job well done. Well, folks, there you have it. That's our show for this evening. Congratulations to all of the top 20 teams and all the different age groups, along with the honorable mention teams. I hope you had as much fun reviewing the list as Anthony and I did releasing it. And that's step 2 of the 3-step process. The final rankings will be out sometime in July. Probably early July, we'll get those out to you guys for the 2022 season. Folks, we're already over halfway through the season. I can't believe it. The season is flying by fast, and I'm enjoying every minute of it. So without further ado, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight here on the lineup as we're coming to you live from the Athletx Sports Group studios here in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm Rick Goff, your host. On behalf of Anthony Grassi, my co-host, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.